At this year's Sibos in Boston, attendees by and large agreed that in order to move forward, the industry needs to embrace collaboration.
We're not in an environment anymore where we have a sort of global GDP tide that's going to lift all boats in the harbour. So I think people are increasingly looking at how they rationalise their business models, how they focus to a larger extent on the bottom line rather than on revenue growth per se. Revenue growth is clearly very important, but how they more effectively manage their costs. So a lot of the conversations we've been having are around some of those sort of outsourcing choices that people are making, how we maybe help them do that. Some of the sort of broker dealers in particular, that's a really clear theme and topic that we've had. And interestingly, actually, as a custodian, as a security services provider, we're increasingly looking at parts of the value chain that we provide and how they are becoming, to an extent, more commoditized. What does that bring in terms of perhaps utility operations for our industry? We focus on what we might do for our clients, but there's also a really interesting theme here about what we might collectively do as parts of that process get more harmonized.
I think there's a renewed sense of the need for collaboration in the industry. And some of you may say, well, yeah, but we've heard that before. But I think we've really reached a tipping point. We've reached a tipping point because with all the tsunami of stuff that's going on, the industry just can't afford to carry on the way it has been.
Across the industry, certain non-value-added services can be mutualized.
Well, I think the industry has made it very clear that in terms of compliance, especially in the payment space, there is an appetite for looking at how can we use a shared infrastructure. For example, the KYC registry. I think everybody's on board with that is a good thing to be doing, and we're delighted, of course, to hear that. But not just in the payments. You could argue the payments guys are a little bit further ahead on some of these issues. But you take securities, for example. Here at Sibos, we've seen a number of indications and milestones in terms of collaboration. Collaborations with market infrastructures, collaboration, for example, to solve one of the challenges of the shortage of collateral. And I think there's a lot more opportunity and a lot more need for the industry to collaborate.
If you look at part of, for example, the asset servicing, the corporate actions process, there's a lot of commonality in terms of what we as service providers do around that corporate action process. There's no competitive advantage that I get in understanding what IBM's next script issue is going to be over anyone else, quite frankly. So I think the world will evolve. I think we're at a sort of tipping point actually in terms of some of those changes that we'll see, and I think that's actually quite an exciting point to be at.